Welcome back to Time-Tested Mastery Life Lesson Cell. I'm Mark Dolan. This episode is part of the Control Before Confidence series, and today I want to drive home a point that every serious salesperson, communicator, leader, and professional needs to hear. Information does not improve your performance. Practice does. Now, information matters. Teaching matters. Workshops matter. Coaching matters. Training sessions matter, but sitting in the room, listening to the material, nodding your head, and agreeing with the principles does not mean your performance is going to change when the pressure hits. That is where a lot of people fool themselves. They think exposure is the same thing as training. It is not. Exposure gives you awareness, but practice builds ability. There's a big difference. You can listen to a podcast on fitness and not get stronger. You can watch a video on golf and not improve your swing. You can attend a seminar on public speaking and still freeze when you stand in front of the room. You can sit through a workshop on communication and still rush, ramble, over-explain, or get defensive when a client asks a tough question. Now you may ask why? Because knowing something is not the same as owning it. And under pressure, you do not perform from what you heard once, you perform from what you have practiced repeatedly. And that is the whole point. Most of us understand this in other areas of our life. If you've ever played sports, lifted weights, learned an instrument, trained for a race, served in public safety, or worked in any performance-based profession, you already know this. You do not build skill by agreeing that skill is important. You build skill by doing the reps. A basketball player does not step to the free throw line with 2 seconds left in the game and say, well, I listened to a really good lecture on free throws. No. They've shot thousands of free throws before that moment ever arrives. A golfer does not stand over a pressure putt and say, I understand the theory of putting. No. They have practiced the stroke, the grip, the pace, the routine, and their breathing. A musician does not walk onto the stage and hope inspiration carries them through a song they have never rehearsed. They practice until the song is no longer just in their head, it's in their hands, it's in their body, and it's in their nervous system. That is what people often call muscle memory. Technically, your muscles do not have memory in the way your brain has memory, but your brain, body, and nervous system learn patterns. They build pathways. They become more efficient through repetition. The more you repeat the right action, the easier it becomes to access that action under pressure. So this is not motivational fluff. This is how human beings are wired. Repetition strengthens response. Practice builds pathways. Habits reduce the need to think through every little moment in real time. And that matters because pressure makes thinking harder. In real estate, sales, leadership, and communication, pressure is really just part of the job. A buyer gets nervous, a seller questions your advice, a client challenges your commission. An inspection report comes back really ugly. A lender delay becomes a threat to closing. The appraisal misses the contract price. A buyer gets cold feet. A seller starts listening to a neighbor who has no idea what they are talking about. A transaction then starts moving sideways, and now your client is anxious, emotional, frustrated, and afraid. That is where your real training shows up. Not when the conversation is easy, not when everyone is smiling, and not when the market is smooth and the client agrees with everything you say. Your training shows up when the emotional temperature rises. That is when many agents discover something very uncomfortable. They know what to do, but they have not practiced it enough to do under pressure. So instead of staying calm, they speed up. Instead of listening, they interrupt. Instead of asking one more question, they start explaining. Instead of creating a sense of safety, they start trying to prove they are right. Instead of guiding the client, they start reacting to the client. And when that happens, trust starts to weaken. Not always because the information is wrong, Sometimes the information is very right, but the delivery is untrained. The voice is rushed. The face looks tense. The body language feels defensive. The pace creates pressure. A client may not be able to explain all of that, but they feel it. And people make trust decisions based on what they feel from us long before they fully process what we tell them. That is why control before confidence matters. Confidence that is not supported by control can turn into noise. Control comes first. Control of your breath, control of the pace, control of your facial expressions, control of word endings, control of your tone, control of how you listen, control of the pause, control of the urge to rescue, defend, explain, or sell too quickly. That kind of control is not created by listening to me talk about it. It's created when you practice. So here's a hard truth. Some people will attend a workshop and largely stay the same. Not because the workshop had no value, not because they are incapable, not because they are bad people. They will stay the same because they only consumed the information and they did not train their behavior. That is the difference between the person who improves and the person who stays stuck. The person who improves does the reps. The person who stays stuck collects ideas. And we live in a world drowning in ideas. Podcasts, books, webinars, seminars, social media clips, coaching programs, motivational quotes, training videos. You can consume personal development content every day of your life and still not change much if you never turn the information into repeated behavior. That is not a lack of intelligence, that is lack of practice. There is an old trap in learning. When we understand something intellectually, we feel like we have improved. But understanding is only a doorway. It is not the transformation. But can you slow down when a seller is angry? You can understand that you should ask better questions, but can you ask the next question when you feel the deal slipping away? You can understand that you should pause, but can you pause when silence makes you uncomfortable? You can understand that clients need emotional safety, but can you create it when your own anxiety is rising? That's the real test. And that test is passed through practice. This is especially important in real estate because transactions are emotional. We talk about contracts, disclosures, inspections, pricing, appraisals, financing, commissions, contingencies, and closing dates. But underneath all of that are people making big decisions with real consequences. Money is involved. Their family is involved. Getting the right timing is involved. Fears are involved. Ego is involved. Hopes are involved. Regret is involved. Uncertainty is involved. That means your client is not just looking for information, they are looking for your steadiness. They are asking questions beneath the questions. Can I trust him? Is he competent? Is he safe? Is he on my side? Can you tell me the truth without pressuring me? Can you guide me through this without making me feel stupid, rushed, or manipulated? That is where professional communication becomes a trust skill. And trust skills must be practiced. A script can help you, a framework can help you, a class can help you, but none of it becomes yours until you rehearse it. You have to say the words out loud, you have to practice your pace, you have to hear yourself. You have to feel where you rush. You have to notice where you trail off. You have to practice explaining difficult things in simple language. You have to practice with enough repetition that your brain and body start to recognize the situation. Then when the real moment comes, you do not have to manufacture confidence. You've already trained control. And control creates your confidence. Think about the conversation every real estate professional should be practicing before they happen. Explaining buyer agency, explaining how compensation works, explaining why a seller may need to adjust their price, explaining inspection repair requests, explaining appraisal gaps, explaining why the highest offer is not always the strongest offer, explaining why a client should not make emotional decisions in the middle of a transaction, explaining what happens when a deadline is missed, explaining what is known, what is unknown, and what the next step should be. These are not conversations to wing. These are not conversations to improvise when everyone is already tense. These are your professional moments, and professionals prepare. That does not mean you become robotic. That does not mean you memorize every word and sound fake. In fact, it's just the opposite. The more you practice, the more natural you become. Practice gives you freedom. When you do not practice, you are trapped in your own head. What should I say? How do I sound? Are they upset? Am I losing control? Did I answer that right? Should I keep talking? That internal noise creates cognitive overload. Now you are not fully listening to the client. You are managing your own insecurity. But when you've practiced, your brain has a lot more room. You can listen more. You can observe. You can slow down the conversation. You can notice the fear behind the objection. You can ask a better follow-up question. You can summarize what they said. You can respond instead of react. That is the value of practice. Practice frees you to serve. So here's a simple way to think about it. Information creates awareness. Practice creates ability. Repetition creates reliability. That third one matters, reliability. Anybody can have a good moment once in a while. Anybody can sound good when the stakes are low. Anybody can say the right thing after the meeting is over. But professionals are reliable under pressure. And that is what separates amateurs from the masters. Not perfection, reliability. Can your client count on you to remain steady? Can your team count on you to communicate clearly? Can your broker count on you to represent the profession well? Can your family count on you to respond with maturity when things are stressful? Can you count on yourself when the pressure rises? That is what we are training, not just better words, better responses, better habits, better presence. That is why I keep saying practice before pressure. Because pressure is coming, and that's not negative, that's real. The deal will get hard. The client will get nervous. The objection will come. The room will get quiet. The question will be very direct, and the emotion will rise. And sometimes the unexpected will happen. When it does, you will not magically become the person you intended to be. You will become the person you trained yourself to be. That should sober us up. But it should also encourage us because it means we can improve. We are not stuck with our old patterns. We are not stuck with rushing. We are not stuck with weak endings. We are not stuck with nervous laughter. We are not stuck with over-explaining. We are not stuck with sounding unsure. We are not stuck with defensive reactions. We can train a better response, but we have to do the work. So here's the challenge for anyone listening, especially if you are part of the Control Before Confidence series. Don't just attend. Don't just listen. Don't just agree. Practice. Take one conversation you know matters in your business, just one, not 10, just one. Maybe it's your buyer consultation. Maybe it's your listing price conversation. Maybe it is your commission explanation. Maybe it is your inspection conversation. Maybe it is your answer to, why should I hire you? Write down your cleanest version, then practice it out loud. Not in your head, out loud. Record yourself for 60 seconds. Listen back. Notice your pace. Notice your face. Notice whether your sentences trail off. Notice whether you sound rushed. Notice whether you sound like you are trying to convince someone or calmly guide them. Then do it again, and again, and again. That is where improvement begins, not in the knowing, in the doing. If you practice for 15 minutes 4 times this week, you will be ahead of most people who only listen. And that's the truth. The people who practice are the people who will improve. The people who only attend will mostly remain the same. That's not criticism, that's their choice. And each of us gets to make our own choice. I want to close with this. Your clients do not need you to be perfect. They need you to be prepared. They need you to be calm enough to listen, clear enough to explain, strong enough to tell the truth, patient enough to create safety, disciplined enough not to jump your anxiety into their anxiety. That kind of professional presence is built, rep by rep, conversation by conversation, practice by practice. The marketplace does not need more fake confidence. It needs more trained communicators. It needs more professionals who understand that trust is not a slogan anymore. Trust is something people feel when your preparation shows up under pressure. So train it before you need it. Practice before you're under pressure. Gain control so you can have confidence. Make sure your training is worth falling back on. This is Mark Dolan with Time-Tested Mastery Life Lessons Sell. And remember, practice builds performance, performance builds trust, and trust is where mastery begins.